The baby on the doorstep. Part 1. The cry in the night. The wind was sharp that October night, rattling the shutters of the small countryside home where Daniel and Emily Harper lived. The couple had been married for 11 years, their love deep but shadowed by the one thing they could never seem to have: children. Doctors had given them diagnoses and procedures, hope and heartbreak, but in the end, only a hollow emptiness remained. Emily had just finished making tea when she heard it. A faint sound, almost lost to the wind. A cry. Her hands froze around the mug. "Daniel, did you hear that?" she whispered. Daniel frowned, muting the TV. The sound came again, thin, desperate, unmistakable. "A baby," he muttered, disbelief in his voice. They hurried to the front door. Emily's breath caught in her throat when she saw the bundle lying on their doorstep, wrapped in a faded blanket, cheeks flushed from the cold. The baby's tiny fists flailed as it wailed. A note was pinned to the blanket. Emily's shaking hands opened it. "Please take care of her. You're the only ones who can keep her safe. Don't trust anyone." Emily looked at Daniel, wide-eyed. This can't be real," she said, her voice trembling. They brought the child inside, their instincts overriding reason. Emily pressed the baby to her chest, feeling the warmth seep into her own heart. She was perfect, bright eyes, a soft tuft of dark hair. The baby quieted, as if sensing she was safe. Daniel read the note again, his brow furrowed. "How would someone know we can't have kids?" he asked. Emily swallowed hard. "Maybe it's a sign, Daniel. Maybe she's meant to be ours." But reality intruded quickly. They had no adoption papers, no proof of anything. And the warning in the note echoed ominously: "Don't trust anyone." That night, sleep was impossible. Every creak of the house made Daniel tense. Emily stayed in the rocking chair, holding the baby, humming softly. She didn't want to think about the possibility of someone returning to take her away. By morning, they had agreed. They would go to the authorities, explain what happened. But as they drove toward the nearest police station, a black SUV began following them. At first, Daniel thought it was coincidence, but every turn they took, the SUV mirrored them. "Daniel," Emily whispered, clutching the baby tighter, "I think they're after her." Daniel's grip on the steering wheel tightened. He suddenly veered onto a narrow forest road, hoping to lose them. The SUV accelerated. Moments later, they broke onto an old logging trail and stopped. The SUV didn't follow. It sped past the turn, disappearing. Daniel's heart was pounding. "Emily, what is going on? Who would leave a baby with us and then chase us?" Emily looked down at the infant's peaceful face. "Whoever it is, they're not going to take her from me." What they didn't know was that the baby's arrival would pull them into a web of danger far deeper than either of them imagined. One that would test their marriage, their safety, and their very lives. Part 2. The first threat. Daniel insisted they couldn't just hide in the forest forever. They turned back toward home, taking side roads to avoid being followed. Emily sat in the passenger seat, eyes scanning the mirrors, holding the baby as if her arms were the only shield in the world. When they reached their house, Daniel checked every lock and drew the curtains. Emily set the baby, whom she had already started calling Grace, in a laundry basket lined with blankets. The name had simply come to her. "Because she's a gift," Emily whispered. That evening, Daniel called the local police anonymously from a prepaid phone he'd bought months ago for emergencies. "A baby was left at our door," he said vaguely. "We're worried someone dangerous might be looking for her." The officer's voice was calm but unnervingly curious. "And where is the child now?" Daniel hesitated. "Safe," he answered, then hung up. Something in the man's tone had made his skin crawl. 2 days passed without incident. They almost began to believe they could keep Grace hidden, until Daniel found an envelope taped to their mailbox. Inside was a single photograph. Emily holding the baby by the window, taken just hours earlier. On the back, in scrawled handwriting, "She isn't yours. Give her back before it's too late." Emily's hands shook so hard, she almost dropped the picture. "Daniel, they're watching us. Here, at home." He burned the photograph in the kitchen sink. If they wanted to take her by force, they would have already. This is intimidation. But why? That night, they heard tires crunching on the gravel outside. Daniel grabbed the shotgun he kept for emergencies and moved to the door. A shadow lingered at the edge of the porch, then retreated into the darkness. The next morning, Emily noticed something strange. Grace had a tiny silver bracelet on her ankle. almost hidden under the blanket. She carefully unclasped it, revealing engraved letters and numbers. D.H. March 9th, 25, she read aloud. Is that a date? Or a code? Daniel asked. Before they could decide, a knock rattled the door. Not a polite knock, urgent, insistent. Daniel gestured for Emily to take Grace upstairs. He opened the door to find a woman in her 40s, dressed in a tailored black coat, eyes sharp as glass. You have something that belongs to me, she said. Daniel's jaw tightened. We don't know what you're talking about. The woman smiled faintly. You know exactly. That child is the key to something you don't understand. Give her to me, and you won't get hurt. Daniel's finger twitched toward the shotgun hidden behind the door. You'd better leave. The woman's eyes darkened. You have 3 days. She turned and walked away, a black sedan waiting for her at the end of the driveway. When Emily came downstairs, Daniel told her only part of what happened. But inside, a knot of dread twisted tighter. Whoever these people were, they weren't just after a baby. They were after Grace. And they were willing to do anything to get her. Part 3, The Hidden Past. Daniel didn't sleep that night. Every creak in the house felt like a warning, every flicker of shadow a threat. He sat at the kitchen table, the shotgun across his lap, until dawn. Emily, however, spent the night upstairs with Grace, watching her tiny chest rise and fall. She's ours, Emily whispered again and again, as though repeating it enough times could make it true. By morning, Daniel had decided they needed answers. If we don't find out who she is and why they want her, we'll never be safe, he told Emily. Emily hesitated but agreed. She fetched the silver ankle bracelet from her nightstand. Maybe this is the key. Daniel took it to his friend Ben, a retired detective who now ran a small pawn shop. Ben studied the engraving under a magnifying glass. The letters D, H, might be initials, Ben said. The numbers could be a date, March 9th, this year. But here's the interesting part. This metal isn't standard silver. It's a custom alloy used in hospital ID tags for infants. So Grace was born in a hospital? Daniel asked. Ben nodded slowly. Probably in a private facility. And not just any. Only a handful in the state used this alloy. Daniel left with a list of 3 hospitals. 2 said they had no matching records. The third refused to answer his questions entirely, citing confidentiality. The way they hung up on him made his blood run cold. That evening, while Emily bathed Grace, a message slipped under their front door, a hospital birth certificate. But the name of the mother and father had been blacked out. The baby's name field read only, Infant D. H. Someone wants us to know a little, but not everything, Emily said. 2 hours later, Daniel's phone rang from an unknown number. You're looking in the wrong places, a man's voice said. Grace isn't just some abandoned child. The line went dead. The lights flickered, then went out entirely. The house was plunged into darkness. Daniel grabbed a flashlight, motioning for Emily to take Grace and hide. Moving to the back window, he spotted 2 figures near the shed. One of them was holding something metallic, bolt cutters. They're cutting the lock, Daniel hissed. He fired a warning shot into the air. The figures scattered into the woods. Moments later, headlights swept past their driveway, vanishing into the night. Emily was shaking. This is getting worse, Daniel. Whoever they are, they're desperate. Daniel gritted his teeth. And so am I. What they didn't realize was that the truth about Grace's birth connected to something far bigger, a secret that powerful people had killed to protect. Part 4, The Secret Worth Killing For. The next morning, Daniel decided to confront the hospital that had refused him answers. He didn't tell Emily his full plan, only that he would ask harder this time. Emily stayed home with Grace, her nerves fraying with every sound from outside. She felt as if eyes were on the house at all times. Daniel parked 2 blocks away from the private medical center and entered through the back service door, where deliveries came in. He'd helped build part of the facility years ago. He knew some of the old maintenance passages. Moving quickly, he found his way to the records floor. There, tucked into a corner file cabinet, he found it, patient file D. H, born March 9th. But before he could read the full document, a voice stopped him cold. Looking for something, Mr. Harper? It was the woman from the driveway, the one who had given him 3 days. She stepped into the light, 2 large men behind her. That child you're hiding isn't just a baby. She's the heir to something that doesn't belong to you. Daniel's grip tightened on the file. She's not property. The woman's lips curled. Her mother was the only child of a very wealthy family. When she died under suspicious circumstances, certain people wanted to control the inheritance. The baby was taken at birth to erase her from the equation. Unfortunately, someone got cold feet and dropped her at your door. Daniel's stomach churned. So this is about money? It's about power, she corrected. And if you keep her, you'll die for it. Daniel didn't wait for more. He bolted through the maintenance hallway, clutching the file, narrowly dodging one of the men who lunged for him. He burst into daylight, sprinted to his truck, and tore away. When he reached home, Emily was in tears. Daniel, someone was in the backyard again. I called Ben, and he's on his way. Daniel dropped the file onto the table. Grace is the granddaughter of one of the wealthiest men in the state, and her existence threatens people who will do anything to keep her hidden. Emily glanced at Grace, then at Daniel. If she's their blood, can we even keep her? Before he could answer, Ben's truck roared into the driveway. He jumped out, face grim. You two need to pack. Right now? I just heard on the scanner. There's a warrant out for you, Daniel. Kidnapping an infant. Emily's voice broke. They're turning it on us. Daniel looked at Grace, sleeping in Emily's arms. Then we run. Part 5, The Last Door. They left in the middle of the night, Ben leading in his truck, Daniel following with Emily and Grace in the back seat. They took back roads, avoiding main highways, headlights kept low. Emily held Grace tightly, whispering soothing words even though the baby slept soundly, unaware of the danger closing in. By dawn, they reached an abandoned cabin deep in the pines. Ben checked the perimeter before waving them inside. You'll be safe here, at least for a little while. Daniel placed the file on the dusty table. I need to find the grandfather, the man they're hiding her from. If I can give her to him, maybe he'll protect her. Ben frowned. You sure he's any better than the people chasing you? Money like his doesn't make men kind. Emily spoke up, voice firm. We're not giving her to anyone unless we know she'll be loved. The day passed in tense silence. By evening, a distant engine echoed through the trees. Ben's head snapped up. They found us. 2 black SUVs appeared on the dirt road. Men poured out, fanning toward the cabin. Daniel grabbed the shotgun. Ben pulled his revolver, and Emily took Grace into the small bedroom, barricading the door. Shouts rang out. Harper, step outside and no one gets hurt. Daniel fired a warning shot through the open window. The reply was gunfire. Glass shattered. Splinters of wood flew. Daniel and Ben held them off, but there were too many. Then, a deafening roar, another set of vehicles arrived. But these weren't black SUVs. They were sleek, silver limousines. From the first stepped an elderly man in a tailored coat, his presence commanding silence. The attackers froze. Enough, the old man said. His voice was calm, yet heavy with authority. Give me the child. Emily emerged from the bedroom, clutching Grace. Are you her grandfather? She asked. The old man's eyes softened as they fell on the baby. Yes, and you've kept her alive longer than I dared hope. Daniel hesitated. If we give her to you, will she be safe? She will be untouchable, the man said simply. But the people who did this, they will not. Emily kissed Grace's forehead, tears streaming. She reluctantly passed her over. The baby stirred but did not cry, as if sensing she was where she belonged. The old man turned to Daniel and Emily. For what you've done, I owe you everything. You'll never be hunted again. But you must disappear, change your names, your lives. For your own safety. It was over in minutes. The SUVs vanished. The limousines followed. Silence returned to the forest. Weeks later, in a small coastal town far from their old home, Daniel and Emily began anew. One morning, a package arrived, no return address. Inside was a silver bracelet, identical to the one Grace had worn, but with new letters engraved. E, H, and D, H, forever her guardians. Emily clutched it to her chest. She's safe, she whispered. Daniel smiled faintly. And so are we. What they didn't see, far away in a sprawling estate, was Grace in the arms of her grandfather, while a hidden camera in the nursery streamed to a locked room filled with screens. On one of them, a man in the shadows murmured, "She'll grow up never knowing who she really is until the day I need her." The game was not over. It had only just begun.